It is make or break. And we gotta make you the next big thing.
I don't need them burnt, I need them delicious.
Move.
Let's go.
As both writers and directors, like, what can you say about the origins of this one? I mean, were you upstate for like a exclusive dining experience yourselves? Were you watching The Bear one night and went, "Oh, the Chef's Kitchen is ripe for some horror"? Like, how did this first hit you guys?
For the record, we wrote this 4+ years ago, long before The Bear or the menu.
Yes.
I do need to clarify.
Yes. The record has been marked.
And I wish it was like us, Bridget and I, just like at our upstate dining experience.
I know. I was like, I don't think I've ever been able to afford one of those, but
It's so fun of you and I going and being like, this is the
Yes, yeah. We were trying to make something about a woman finding her voice. And we were trying to figure out what the actual specific texture it was. And Krudy suggested, what if she was a chef? And so then from there, we just had this kind of crazy 2-hour conversation where the skeleton of the story sort of took place, kind of congealed or whatever. It did feel like it kind of dropped down, like, and then it also helped that we had both worked in restaurants. So it was something we kind of understood, at least the basics of the world and a lot of these characters, like the Andreases and the Marcellos. So yeah, and then from there, we were able to write a lot of it from a pretty personal place, based on our own personal journeys as filmmakers, trying to find our own leadership styles, trying to deal with the madness and the psychosis of self-doubt and learning to trust ourselves. Yeah.
We've made it clear The Bear was not an influence. What were some, when you got down to the nitty-gritty, finding the tone of this piece, what were some of your cinematic influences?
revisit, Whiplash in a lot of ways, just to kind of tap into a character with a drive that almost feels out of control. And sort of what are the gates that he passed through? And these were really big picture structure thoughts. In a weird way, we were mostly, and this is probably apparent, not looking at a lot of horror structural references. We wanted to we looked at Black Swan too, honestly, in terms of again, this is another character with ambition. These were the most similar, sort of central big motivator characters that we returned to when we were sort of okay, well, how do we do this again, right? I mean, what else, Bridget? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, those are big in terms of structure. I mean, our influences in terms of we have wacky influences, from Beetlejuice to Wicker Man. Honestly, it's anything goes. But I think, yeah, just we never actually set out to make a horror. We were trying to just tell this tale of ambition, and then once the sort of haunted estate of it that sort of led it into more of a horror spooky place.
Those are great reference points. I love the Wicker Man too. I see obviously a little bit of Wicker in there. How did you guys land on Ariana DeBose as your chef? I mean, what does Ariana bring to this thing that no one else could have? It's
more what isn't she bringing? She had to really bring all of her skill set for this, and I think we felt strongly that she understood Chef's sort of drive and commitment and the vulnerabilities that go with that. And then after talking to her, we're utterly sold. And the fact that she's a dancer and that she knows how much rehearsal is a part of things. These were all aspects that made it feel just a total, there's a lot of synergy for her. And then she basically just ran with the character, embodied it, authored it, all of the above.
You guys touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to dig a little deeper. I mean, the film itself cuts, I think, a little deeper, pun intended. The further it goes, what kind of themes in this story did you guys really want to explore and sort of find throughout the piece?
I like that, Krudy. You reminded me of our prove yourself versus lose yourself sort of modes of leadership and discovery and creativity. I think. That was definitely this thread in the back burner of, this is somebody who has had to fight to prove themselves, which is something we really related to, honestly, from our film set experiences. And then, how really becomes baggage when you're trying to be your own leader and be your own voice. You don't want to keep trying to prove yourself. So you need to let go of it. You need to get lost in the work. So that was kind of like this cool through line that helped us anchor to her journey.
Yeah, it was like a shorthand that Bridget and I would like return to. I mean, for a bigger thematic, like, statement of like, good leadership is dominating your environment and like holding power with like a punishing fist versus like good leadership is about connection and nurturing your environment and finding your power within. So that was like a nice like shorthand for these like big ideas that we were trying to like reach for when Bridget and I were just like, we had like written on little cards just to help remember ourselves. And because that's like a really also primal, visceral feeling, this like needing to prove yourself. I think that's something that Bridget and I could like really connect to from our younger days. And like, look, we're not beyond that completely either. It's just like, just needing to fight to like take your chance, make your chance. And then once you're there, feeling like you don't belong. I mean, it's really also like the complementary theme is belonging, honestly. And like, who gives you belonging and who grants you belonging, and like and that's why the witch is this this cast out character of story, and for the witch to offer you like a sense of belonging from the most unlikely place is kind of like where the story ends.
And like a model for leading with a more classically feminine traits like intuition, emotion, and connection, whether it's a male or a female following those traits, but kind of those are our two poles, the Marcello kitchen and this crazy witch lady in the woods.